Booker T, Brad Gilmore. The Hall of Fame podcast is here. How y'all doing?
What up?
What's going on, man?
Yo, so you guys have been here. This ain't your first time here. All the big fights for years and years and years. I got to ask y'all, before we started this interview, we were talking about the Super Bowl. Every pro sports team's coming. We're just missing the NBA and baseball, but they're on the way. Did you guys ever think this city would become like the epicenter of sports?
It's funny. Didn't we just talk about that like last night?
Yeah, we're just talking about this. It's grown. The city has grown. And just let you know anything's possible. And if you build it, they'll come. I'm serious. I mean, I know that's cliche, but I think it's proven that it's a big sports town and a lot of support here for every, just like the Raiders, man. I mean, I got a Raiders T-shirt at the house. You know what I mean?
The color scheme, Bo Jackson,
man,
legendary squad.
Yeah, I'm serious, right? So
I'm sure Oakland mad as hell at y'all. Y'all taking everything.
As well to UFC, as well as boxing, always been.
Yeah.
The Mecca here in Vegas, always been the Mecca of boxing for me. And people say, Madison Square Garden, but I say Vegas. Vegas always been that hot spot
for sure.
Fantastic, and also people in Vegas, it's weird because, honestly, we don't want the baseball team. We're not hungry for it. We wanted an NFL team. The baseball team were like, cool, we got minor league baseball here anyway.
Yeah.
And people in Oakland are like, we like the girl, we the girl on the side that didn't know the dude was in a marriage, and now she's coming at us all crazy. But Booker, I need your help though, because you just said something that's very important. It's an agenda that I pushed, that Vegas is the sports capital of the world. There was a lot of rumors. Minnesota, their new stadium where the Vikings play at, US Bank, I think it's called. But here in Vegas, we kind of hungry for it. I'm honestly surprised WrestleMania hasn't come to Vegas yet. Do we need to make the WrestleMania 41 Vegas? Do we need that to happen?
I would like it.
Brad and I, we were just talking about that as well.
We were.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
No, it's serious.
We were just talking about
that. We were just talking about this as far as, when is WrestleMania going to, show up in Vegas, and then, so we can invade, here. But, it's always a bidding war, and I'm sure these gangsters out here got enough money in their pocket to,
grease the right palms.
I'm serious, man. So let's make it happen. I'm ready for it.
I would love it. Yeah. I would love it. I would love it in Las Vegas.
In the Sphere.
Oh man, yeah, you could do it, but no, they need to do it at Allegiant.
I know
they need to do it at Allegiant.
We need more room, but
is that I know it's.
But do SmackDown, Raw, and NXT at the Sphere.
It would be awesome though. Yeah, one of the shows to get.
You would want to do it at the Sphere, the way it's set up, because it's weird because the whole state. You guys haven't been, right?
No,
not yet.
Yeah.
But you've seen. I know you guys have seen the photos and everything.
Yeah.
Is that not weird? I mean, I know wrestling's been done on the stage before, if you go into a play and stuff, but that.
Not like that.
That would be nuts.
Yeah, it would be nuts. Like Brad say, SmackDown or Raw. And the thing is, I'm sure it's going to happen. I heard UFC is getting ready to do an event
at the Sphere. Yeah,
so they're doing a pay-per-view there. Not 300. 300 will be at T-Mobile.
Yeah.
They're also NHL's doing their draft from there, which is going to be weird too, because usually all the teams in their front office, it's where are they going to sit? Just in the stands? Because it's very it's that screen, a little bit of room. And the rest is just seats all the way. It's incredible, though.
Man, I gotta get in there, man.
Can't wait to check it out.
I gotta get in there.
Can't wait
but y'all had a Mania before, right? WrestleMania 9.
WrestleMania 9. Yes, that was the one that was in
Caesar's
3
Palace.
different cities.
No, there's one Caesar's, right?
One. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, we need that back. No disrespect to Minnesota. There's beautiful Ethiopian women there that I was not aware. It's a great time.
Yeah.
But Vegas needs that. And again, I want to say the Hall of Fame podcast. You guys have been phenomenal. As someone in wrestling media, thank you, because every week we pull in something from the show to make a topic. Every week you feed in the dirt sheets. But on that point, so I heard, Booker, if this is correct, Brad reached out to you when you were 18, right?
Yeah, when I was
18.
Yeah.
So Brad, here's the thing. When I moved out here to Vegas, within the first 10 days of me living here was a Pacquiao fight. You guys were here. I didn't know you back then. This was my first event and first media event. I'm all excited. I saw that you were here, and first and foremost, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
You were walking out. I had to stop the interview with Michael Blackson because I was like, no disrespect. I wanted to talk to Booker T, but you were leaving and it was in the afternoon and you were like, you know what? I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. My cameraman's eating Oreos and you're like, bro, I gotta go, man. I'm like, I'm sorry. My cameraman didn't even, it was just, I felt intimidated. I felt bad because I was like, I ruined my shot. You at 18 years old were like, hey, let's do this thing. What was the initial, like, you guys meeting up to do this? What was this?
Reality wrestling is what brought me to Booker. I woke up one day on Twitter, and I was always a wrestling fan from when I was a kid. I'd kind of fallen out of it, and I was doing radio in Houston on a kind of a different online and mainly a hip hop radio station. But I saw that they were looking for a ring announcer, and I put in my application, and I came in and I had the meeting with Book, and I went out there and did the ring announcing, and I just remember Booker going, "You sounded good out there, kid." And I was like, "Okay, yeah." He's like, "Come back next month," and I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna be around." And then you got a radio show, and he put a call in. He was like, "I'm looking for the Robin to my Batman."
Yeah.
And the rest is history, and the dirt sheets have been fed.
Hey, man.
They've been fed. And Brad,
I will say it's the most covered show in wrestling today, right? I mean, wouldn't you say that, Book?
I would think so. There's a lot of podcasters out there, but on a weekly basis, it seems like no matter what I say, whether a lot of times I'm just joking around. A lot of times I'm just having fun.
Like the Punk thing a few weeks ago.
Of course,
right?
the Punk thing was just having fun. It was just like the Corey Graves thing a couple of years back, where it went like just viral because I said, I was going to beat up my coworker. I was like, come on, man. I mean, how long do you think I'm going to have a job beating up my coworker?
Why would I say that?
I mean, come on, exactly. Having a fight with my coworkers because I'll probably get the hell beat out of me at this stage of the game. We're fighting with these young guys, but we have a lot of fun on the show, and we don't mind people picking it apart and making it what they want to make it. It's entertainment at the end of the day. But sometimes when we misquoted, when I misquoted it irks me just a little bit, just because you can say it just the way I said it, and you still get clicks. You know what I mean? But a lot of times they got to spice it up a little bit.
Hey, Brad, I want to ask you, have you always wanted to be in radio or media?
No, not at all. It's funny, we were just talking about this too.
I was not.
It's like you were in on the call.
I threw in my phone and hit the voice record. So it's
just something that came about. You know what I mean? It's something that came about, and I didn't even really think about it at all. Not even a little bit, especially not doing anything in sports media, because really I was always a pop culture fan, a movie fan, a music fan, and a wrestling fan. And then when Booker, the original show that we did together was mainly about boxing and UFC, no wrestling talk really at all. And what I actually loved about that was I didn't know a lot at the time about UFC or boxing, but Booker knew. I kind of came in as a social media person to like get questions and kind of just banter a little bit, and I loved that because I got to learn so much about these sports, and then to where I became real into it, and it helped me grow in a direction that I had no want or desire to do, and it was because I had to. And you either, it's like building a muscle. It either grows or it dies, right? And I had that opportunity to do it. So I had never thought about this in a million years. And I was with Booker yesterday. We were after dinner, and I looked at him right as we're about to go into the MGM. I'm like, man, did you ever think you'd have a media career?
Yeah. I'm like, no.
Credentials on credentials.
I got a voice for it, though.
Yeah.
But no, the opportunity came along, and the rest is pretty much history. I needed someone like Brad to actually be able to do something like this. There's no way I could have gotten into the media world on my own, especially from the social media side, being able to, work that, the internet the way, they can work it these days. I'm totally, internet illiterate, man. I don't know anything about that stuff, but I could always count on Brad to actually be, the one that's doing the heavy lifting, and together, it's almost like I say, you drive and I'll navigate, and we'll see if we can get there.
Well, look, as someone involved in the wrestling media, again, Hall of Fame podcast, go subscribe, watch, listen to ESPN Radio in Houston and everything. I want to give you guys flowers because it's only right. Like I said, if we're going to talk about your guys' show, I want to make sure we get the history behind it.
Yeah.
And speaking of the media thing, like when it comes to wrestling too, it's been crazy. you know, it's funny. I looked back a few weeks ago when I got the approval to cover WrestleMania this year in Philly. This will be my second year getting to do it. And I still have all 5 emails from WrestleMania 33 of wanting to go and it being denied and denied. In these past few years, the whole outlook has changed. We have press conferences that damn near take up the Super Bowl week, right?
Yeah.
We have the post-game pressers.
Right, yeah.
We have, you know, the WWE kind of realizing that, it is important to let these people in if they want to cover it, whether it is media outlets, radio stations, content creators, and it's insane. Honestly, it's crazy the way it's covered. Did you ever think like it would get to this point with like post-game press conferences and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I really did. Just because it's not getting any smaller, it's getting bigger, and the social media world is very, very important to what wrestling is today. 20 years ago, we wouldn't be saying that, but today, the way things are moving, to be able to have journalists actually be able to come in and cover it. Good news as well as bad news. I think people are interested in all of that. So to have it done from a perspective to where, you guys come in and almost, we draw the curtain back a little bit, because everybody knows it's sports and entertainment, but then when you get a real issue that's going on and you can actually talk about it, I think that's very important for the fans to actually, be a part of.
And it's just like, every other media, every other sport has the post-game press conference, during the NBA Finals, I like watching the press conferences.
It makes great content, too, because you really might be pissed off.
Right.
And something really might happen, and it's a real moment, just to let fans know that we are real people, too. And I just think that's very, very important.
Well, and you can get some iconic moments, it's funny that this happened because, we just got to go dap up AI a minute ago. Allen Iverson was in town, Booker went to go say hello and what have you. But like, one of the classic things about AI came from a press conference, the practice thing,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And it gives you those iconic moments. But to think about, like, go back to Survivor Series, CM Punk makes his debut or re-debut in WWE, and then you have Triple H sitting right there, ready to talk about it. And that's what everyone's wanting to know, like, how did this happen? And he's right there immediately after the show, and he's going to continue to talk about it. And what a great way to continue to keep your fan base engaged, too. I think it's great what they've been, and I think WWE, obviously, because of the credentials Booker carries, has always been great to our show for its entirety. But I think it's great that they're opening it up to new media and letting people just get a chance, open it up.
And if they want to do their press conferences in Vegas, I ain't gonna be the one to complain. I will not be. And
that was a spectacle too, man. I can't remember them ever do anything like that.
That was awesome.
About 3 days ahead of time. 3 days ahead of time, they had all those people there. Yeah, it was crazy, and it took over Super Bowl week. Like, look, I understand Taylor Swift. I asked George Kittle the question about Cody and The Rock and stuff.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I specifically looked through the NFL Twitter account, and they were posting everything. Specifically, every time Travis Kelce was asked the Taylor Swift question, we're talking about Taylor Swift and Beyonce, biggest people in the world. What was the most viewed tweet of that week? Mm-hmm. The one about George Kittle answering wrestling and stuff. And, even outside of the media, even outside of AEW and WWE, you look at the independents. Look at y'all, Reality of Wrestling. You guys about to hit 400 episodes, on your way to 1 million subscribers. Like, that growth has been incredible. And the one thing I want to ask you, Book, is, I got to talk to Becky earlier this week, and this last year I was so impressed because her doing some of the things that she had to do. When you're at a certain position, people don't get, once you're fed, some people like to chill. Some people that have done the things that you have done don't want to give back or just want to relax and sit in the limelight as far as they can. And you've been doing this a while. Why is it so important for you to have created what you've created and to see it continue to grow?
I guess because I was that kid once upon a time as well, growing up, and just, needed a pat on the back, somebody to tell me that, that I could actually do it, not only that I could actually do it, I could actually finish it. I never had anybody to tell me that. I didn't finish school, just because I never had anybody to tell me, man, you need to finish this. I never had anybody to scold me and really get on me and do that. So I just think it's very, very important for young people to have mentors, to be able to pat them on the back and kick them in the butt and tell them that, what life is truly all about, as well as to have a springboard into the the wrestling business because it is that underground sport that you just can't, go to some college and get into. So we say, let's create our own college. Just create our own, they got a AAA here in Vegas. Let's say we're the AAA of professional wrestling to get young guys ready to, perhaps take on that next step in life if they want to, take on that journey in this business. But if they don't make it in this business, they're still going to go on a journey of life being a part of reality of wrestling. They're going to take something away from that they could never, imagine in a million years. So I just think it's all goes back to me being that kid, just wanting to pat on the back.
But let me also say this. So I started reality wrestling like 12 years ago now it's been, which sounds crazy that it's even been that long.
Salute.
But, yeah, thank you. But here's the thing. And I can actually say this honestly. I'm college educated. This last December, I just got my master's degree from the University of Alabama. But I've learned more, seriously, about my life and career and as a person at reality wrestling than all that time in school combined. I've learned so many skills, so many things that I never in a million years would have had those tools in my tool bag, to use a term that Booker uses a lot, if it wasn't for reality of wrestling. Doing stuff like this wouldn't have happened without reality of wrestling, right? Being on television wouldn't have happened without reality of wrestling. Being able to know how to put together a format for a show, how to tell a story, how to enhance characters, how to help come up with character ideas. I always say wrestling's the ultimate entertainment boot camp. You're in front of a live audience, you got one take, it's also on television, you got to learn all these things to do, and it's unlike any form of art before that's ever existed, honestly. There's nothing like professional wrestling. So to have that opportunity for people like me, that's given me this whole career I never would have thought about, is incredible. And then you look at other people like Brian Keith. Brian and I almost broke in around the same time. I think he was a year ahead of me. And to see where he's at now. Roxanne Perez, I remember her showing up literally on the Greyhound. And we'd say it so much on commentary. Booker's like, she got a car now, all right? She's not you remember that? She's not taking the Greyhound anymore.
Come on, guys.
Come on, let's shine her up. But I saw that. You know what I mean? And all the people who've come through. And right now, there's a lot of independent wrestling out there, but there's no other reality of wrestlings out there. There's just not. There's no one who has the reach that we have on YouTube, the facilities that we have, the production that we have. There's production meetings, and then there's a secondary production meeting. There's an announcer meeting. There's a cameraman meeting. There's a talent meeting all before the show. It doesn't happen anywhere else. And we had Maven down at the last show, and he was blown away by the facility that we have. And he and I were talking about it, and there's a reason why Brian Keith or Roxanne Perez, those are just the two recent names that I'm using, there's a reason why they've catapulted into popularity at their respective companies. It's because they've already done this. They've had the simulation, right? I had a baseball coach who told me, practice makes perfect only when you practice perfect. And at Reality Wrestling, we give you perfect practice. You know how to work a hard camera. Yeah. You know about times. You know about cues. You know about lights, camera, entrance, action. You have that experience before you ever get there. I'm sure, Booker, as well as you did in your career, you would have also benefited greatly, even more so, if you had something like a Reality of Wrestling that would teach you everything before you got there.
It's a one-stop shop, and it's not something that happened overnight. Also, we've been, like you say, working on this for almost 20 years now. And
congratulations on that, by the way.
I appreciate it. And it's been a labor of love. I couldn't have done it without my wife. You know what I mean? A lot of this is her vision as far as having our own arena and having our own facility to be able to train our students. So for me, we got a lot of people. Kevin Bernhardt, give him a shout out for being the guy who's self-taught as far as production, as far as editing goes. He's literally self-taught, and we figured it out, and now it's just onward and up with 2024. It's going to be our biggest year. April 13th, actually, Pay Up.
Yeah.
It's already sold out, and we had to, build more risers just to get more seats in. So it's awesome. It's an awesome time for us right now at Reality Wrestling.
Yeah, the last two shows we've had, we've sold out a month in advance. It just shows you it's a hot ticket.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And it's incredible, the growth.
And by the way, Booker, Brad gonna need a little bit of a raise for the promo he cut. If you were thinking about joining, you know what I'm saying? He sold it.
Checks in the mail, book, right? Checks in the mail.
But I want to ask you, Booker, how important is it for you, or is it important when you talk to people, and obviously some people want the limelight, right? And they think you could just get there smooth sailing, but in entertainment, I'm sure, Brad, you felt the same way. I told you when I went to the media day in LA, I was, for a second, I was like, damn, I made it. Okay, now we got to go to work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it took I just told you, all the years of me being, you can't wait. So we don't have room. None of that matters. You're here now. Now you have to get to work. How important is sending that message to those that are really the Brian Keefes, the Usos, and everyone who's gone on to that next level?
No, those guys know that I lead by example. I don't sit around and, rest on my laurels or anything like that. Our last gym that we had, I was the one that was getting that carpet up off the floor, you know what I mean? So those guys, they know, when they see me go out and, push myself as hard as I do, still to this day right now, and trying to understand what this journey is all about. Just like, say, for instance, signing autographs, understanding that that's not my moment, that's their moment, to make sure, you have that innate ability to understand what this thing and what this ride is truly, truly all about. So, no, it's very, very important that my guys, understand it. But, like I say, I lead by example. I don't ask my guys to do anything that I wouldn't do, and I think that's why I got my respect from the guys like Brian Keith. I love hearing the stories like from like Jimmy and Jey Uso talk about some of the lessons that they learned from me, and I was listening to Jimmy and Jey talk, and is saying the one lesson that was so important for them to learn was your losses got to be better than your wins, and they go, man, that's something that we really think about all the time, is our losses got to be better than our wins. Listening to Brian Keats, say, when he had to try out at AEW, and there was so many guys there, but the only thing he was, that would go back to his head was, his tool bag, and he had all the tools in his tool bag to go out there. He didn't have to think.
Good.
He didn't have to think. He just thought about his tool bag. So man, I'm proud, man. I'm proud, and it's very, very important, that my guys understand what this thing's all about.
And obviously next week's WrestleMania, but if you look at everything that WWE is going to be involved in, it's a huge week with programming outside of that. Of course, we got Stand and Deliver. We got the Bray Wyatt documentary that I'm going to watch tonight. Yeah, I have some tissues next to me because I can't only imagine. But also, they got this new show that has just escaped my mind, but about the NIL kids. And there has been a conversation.
I think it's called Next Gen, actually. Yeah.
Yes, Next Gen. Shout out to Roku.
Yeah.
The Roku TVs that we got in here. Shout out to them. And there's been discussion about how in WWE the philosophy's kind of changed about going to get these athletes as opposed to grabbing all strictly the best of the independents, and how I can see how the NIL kids, because they've been in team sports, they know what it is to be coached, because they've been coached probably since they were 8 years old, since they were toddlers. To you and your experience, what's the difference in your opinion when it comes to coaching someone that's coming from the indies, that's been doing wrestling, and someone coming from an NIL?
I think the NIL guys, you got to understand that they're already athletes. They've trained to be athletes. A lot of them have seen certain parts of the world already. So they have an advantage in that aspect. They might be financially smart, opposed to somebody just coming off the indies and never made any money or anything like that. But as far as training them, it's going to be a huge, it's a job, just because you got to deprogram them and reprogram them almost. It's like working with guys that have been playing football their whole lives since they were playing Pop Warner. They've been trained to hit somebody as hard as they possibly can. You know what I mean? Make their teeth rattle, make snot bubbles come out. They want that. You know, in wrestling, hey, bro, you better slow it down. We need to work with you a little bit. But I think that the mindset with the NIL guys is kind of easy to train them just because they're coachable. I look at the Tiffany Strattons, I look at the Sol Rukas of the world, and it seems like they gravitate to the physicality of it just because. I'm gonna tell you right now, being a gymnast, you got to be tough, man. Those are some of the strongest individuals you're gonna see. So working with those guys is not that hard as far as teaching them to move. I think the indie guys have more of a advantage because some of them have been working, but they have been working and learning psychology. That's what we got to teach the NIL guys, how to tell a story. And that right there, it can be complicated, but there again, most of them have been very, very coachable that I've seen. And we got a bunch of them down there right now in NXT, and all of them seem to just be hungry, and it's repetition. It's repetition. I think that's all it's going to be.
And you going back and forth from Houston to Orlando and being at the Performance Center and going back to Reality of Wrestling, like you still love wrestling like 100%, right? Doing the show, like it's
what I do. You know what I mean? When I got into wrestling, I found out it was something that I was good at. It seemed like it was deja vu. It seemed like I had been there before. Working with the Reality of Wrestling, I couldn't do that without having literally a really, really great team. Being able to work with the NXT guys and try to develop their characters as well, to be able to get in their head, and then for them to look at me as a mentor, a lot of them, it's really, really cool because it's not about me. It really isn't. It's not about me at all. And if I can help these guys in any way, I always tell them, if I tell you something, trust me, it's not going to be for me. It's not, 10 times out of 10 times, it's not going to be for me.
Right.
If I can help these guys in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to be there to help them. And then if I can mix a little Reality of Wrestling in with some NXT at the same time, like we've been doing lately, Javier Bernal, he's going to be at our next show on April 11th. Trick Williams, he's made his, shot at Reality.
We'll get to him in a second.
Oh, you know what I mean? No, but I'm just saying, there's so many guys of Roxanne Perez, came back and blessed us at Reality of Wrestling, so it's so awesome to be able to, merge that and let my talents get, what we call in the business the rub, get the rub.
Hey, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. But I will say this too. Yeah, and Booker obviously loves wrestling, and we all do. I mean, that's why we're in this. But I also know, the school is, and I hope I'm not speaking for you, but that's in his heart, because I'll never forget one time Booker calls me, and it's early too, and it's like on a random weekday. It's maybe like a Thursday. It's like at 9 a.m. And he calls me. He's like, hey man, you got a minute? I'm like, yeah, what's going on? He goes, I just got a smoke machine,
Excited as hell.
It's like the most, it sounded like a 5-year-old on Christmas morning, and I say that to say that's because, but look, here's the thing. It was a big smoke machine. But look, as funny as that is, it also shows me wow, he's excited because he knows, not for him, he knows, man, the guys' entrances are going to look better. They're going to have a cooler look when they come out. So their publicity photos are going to be better. Maybe they're going to get more bookings out of this.
Hey,
this is how his mind's working. It's for everybody else, And when he says he does work on it for himself, I came in one time and we had this beautiful commentary table that was all redone and had a new paint job on it, and
shiny.
It was shiny and stuff. And Booker came by and knocked on it. He goes, I did that. You know what I mean? But he takes pride at it. But he takes pride in it because he knows I'm doing this for y'all. I'm giving back to y'all. And it comes through, and we're all very appreciative.
Hey man, that's a beautiful thing. And since I'm leading this interview down the path of how you're teaching and growing the next crop. Let me try to finagle this and try to plug everything you're involved in. A&E just announced the next season of Rivals, Most Treasured, all their shows, and they're focusing on you versus Austin.
Yeah,
which is great because now we get into the gem of the stories. You know what I'm saying? Rock and Cena, we all know, but the gem, the ones for the real ones that we're watching. And before we specifically get into that rivalry, I think the one thing for me that was cool is that, you know, you just talked about some of the NIL kids that they're athletes. Well, now they need to learn the story, and that as much as people hate the term, it is sports and entertainment. And the way that you're one of the best wrestlers of all time, but you also made everyone laugh. You still do it today when you're on commentary, and you entertained people just outside of the ring is very important. What is some of your guidance to the future when it comes to that, and remembering like, hey, this is a part of it too? Because to me, it's like a good rapper, right? You could have every word, you could spit like Eminem, but if the song ain't good, bro, I ain't gonna listen to it. And you could be the best wrestler in the world, but if you're not telling a good story, I may not be as intrigued as something else that makes me feel something.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've always been able to step outside of myself and understand what the fan is going to want more than anything. So I always, thought about going out there and trying to make the fans feel a certain way. I talk about the Shaw Brothers productions when I was a kid, and I used to go watch all the karate movies. And when I leave the theater, man, I would be chopping somebody. I'd be making all kind of sounds because I had so much fun. I was entertained, to the utmost. And when I was in WCW, I was a wrestler. But when I came to WWE, I had a real chance to work on my character building, and I had so many good teachers that helped me work on my character building. And I just had to have an open mind more than anything. I just had to have an open mind and just go with the flow and see exactly where this thing goes. But I always thought about, no matter how big the role was or how small the role was, I needed to enhance that role and make it as big as I wanted it to be. Just like Stone Cold and I in the grocery store, we had one shot to go out and do that. And Stone Cold and I, we definitely wasn't thinking about making history or anything like that. We definitely wasn't thinking about, 20 years later, people will be talking about that. It'll be one of the WWE's, greatest moments. That wasn't the thought process. We just wanted to go out there and do it to the best of our ability. I knew what my job was. He knew what his job was. This was the payoff, and when you paying off, you got to pay off. You got to just be all in. And for me, it was some great TV, but you got to be able to literally laugh at yourself. You got to be able to go all in, and just like I say, your losses. Like that was my loss, but it had to be better than all of my wins. And all I remember is at the end of that take was, I'm gonna get you, man. I'm gonna get you. After that ass whooping. But that's the only thing I'm thinking about.
Still talking.
I'm still talking crap. I'm going to get you, man. So that's movies, that's TV, but that's been the best part of the wrestling business for me. It hadn't been the one-loss record. It hadn't been the championships or anything like that. It's been the great entertainment that the fans have gotten out of, my career. And a lot of stuff I don't even remember until the fans come back and say, hey, Buck, you remember when such and such? And I go, oh, yeah, then I remember it. Because I always say the memory was for the fan. It wasn't for me.
That's a beautiful thing. And, it's interesting, right? So if I have this correct, you win the title on the last Nitro. You come to WWE. And I'm wondering just, wherever you're at, people are trying to be the best. You know what I'm saying? And you come in as an outsider. You get the chance to work with The Rock. You get the chance to work with Stone Cold. I believe for the longest there was a rumor that you broke his hand on the first time you appeared off the table.
I broke his back, actually.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better. Thank you very much. But how was? Did you feel like I'm a one man crew, or how was getting into that locker room and being part of that team, that family for some?
Transition for me was relatively easy. I honestly don't remember having one bump in the road other than that night, dropping Steve Austin. But that even really wasn't a bump because I didn't even know about it until I got the call on the way, to the next town. But when I talked to Steve about it really wasn't a big problem or anything like that. I think those guys knew that I wasn't reckless or careless or anything like that. But I always tell my students, you have to know how to make it in the locker room before you can make it in the ring.
Yeah.
anywhere, no matter where you go. You got to be able to make it in the locker room. So I just left all of my accolades back in WCW, and I said, I got to prove to these guys that I'm willing to be, a team player. I want to be one of the boys. So I just came in, I kept my head down, and went out and performed and did my work. I thought my work would speak volume. I thought all I had to do was just go out and do that, and the rest would work out for me. And after, I don't know how long it was, a couple of months, I remember the Undertaker invited me to come and dress in the locker room, which was called the TV locker room, which only a select few get a chance to, hang out in the TV locker room. So I was like, man, I made it, I passed the test, you know what I mean? So,
Brad, look at the smile. Look at the smile, baby.
No, it was one of those type of deals, I was like, I'm in now, and from that point on, it's always been smooth selling for me in WWE. I haven't had any problems, in my career. It's been pretty awesome.
What is the one thing you take from going up against Austin and your work with him, even outside of that?
I guess even though I knew Steve, like from WCW a little bit, I knew he was a Texas boy as well. I think, from having a program with him right off the bat, he let me know how real this game was in WWE opposed to how it was in WCW. It was a business. Everything we did was business. We wasn't laughing and joking around and playing around. It was business all the time. And I think I took that away from Steve, because I know throughout my whole WWE career, it's always been business, and from that point on, no matter how much fun I was having.
It's incredible, and thank you for that. Now here comes the one question I need to ask you. You prepare for this, because I feel like you've been asked about this all the time. And the thing I like about this is I've gotten to ask Brian Gewirtz and get the writer's side of this. WrestleMania 19, you already know it's coming. Do you feel I'll throw these two words out, with the way that ended and Triple H going over and still keeping the title in that program, did you feel disappointed or disrespected with the way that played out?
Honestly, and I'm being quite honest with you. 100%. I really didn't lose any sleep over that angle at all. I know a lot of my fans did. That's what I was disappointed.
Yes, we did.
No, that's what I was disappointed with more than anything. I was disappointed because I know my fans were let down because they really, really wanted me to win that night. And if I would have won that night, it would have been great. It would have been a great moment. It really would have. We'd look back in history and say, man, Booker T, he did it. But I just never have looked at the wrestling business like most people do. I've always looked at this business as a movie, a script. And I'm getting the script, and the script was, for me to lose that night. I thought it was a huge win for myself as well as African Americans for me to make it to the main event of WrestleMania against Triple H. That was a huge win, just being in that position. I thought I won. I really did. And but the only regret I have is the regret that my fans had from that night more than anything. I always felt like when I won the world title in WWE, it was the right time. When I beat Rey Mysterio, it's King Booker. Something no king has ever done. Winning the world championship. But it would have been a great moment. But it's just not something that I've really ever lost any sleep about, just because the check was too big. No, I'm serious. The check was way too big for me to complain for that night.
Yeah. Well, that leads to the next question. Was that the biggest check you've got?
Oh yes, it was the biggest check I ever seen. For a kid coming from South Park, Texas, making no money to quit high school and go to end up in prison, and end up getting a check that big where you could pay buy a house with. I never thought. I tell people all the time, if you would have paid me $1 million a year, and they said, Book, you're not going to win any titles, you know what? You're not going to even be on the show. You're going to have to sit at home.
You know, security guard at catering.
You know what I did? I would have set my ass because
It's a job.
It's always been a job. It's always been about taking care of my family. It's always been about making money. It hadn't been about being famous or anything like that. It's been about staying relevant in order for me to be able to, continue to make money and support my family. But I've never been a guy that looked at professional wrestling and said, "Man, I wish I'd have won." I wish I'd have lost. I've never once gone to, a producer or went into, the booking office and said, "Hey, man, I got a great idea." Not once.
Well, but the reason why I asked that question is in some of the storytelling, I was like, well, if the end goal was that you were going to lose, why did they have to say certain things that were said about your past? Even the pinfall, where he hits the pedigree and it seems like it's 45 seconds. I haven't watched the match. It's coming up because it's Mania season.
But watch the match because there's so much that goes in before that finish with Flair coming out.
It's amazing. No.
Yeah,
so the match unquestionably is amazing.
No, I mean,
I've thought about this a lot.
I understand how people, feel and think, but, I don't think it was any malintent, that went into that match as far as let's go ahead here and purposely make Book look. I can't.
I got you.
I refuse to believe that just because I've been around the company for way too long. And they could have got rid of my ass a long time ago. And the thing is, I've been one of the most, a lot of people don't know it, but I'm like one of the most outspoken guys in this business. I've I should have got fired a long time ago. I'm serious, just because I've been known to, just blow up. But I've always had my respect. And the thing is, I've always looked at the business there again as a job. I've never looked at it. And I understand the racial components that went along with that storyline. But at that moment in time, a lot of people don't understand. And this is a part of the story that a lot of people don't know about. So you're getting a spoiler here. I mean, not a spoiler, but
scoop.
A scoop.
Thank you, Booker.
Yeah, you're getting a scoop. At that time, I was, it came from WCW. And no one in the world knew my real story. No one knew about my prison life. No one knew about any of that stuff. No one knew about my background. And Jim Ross said, "Book, this is something you got to talk about. This is something the world needs to hear. Some kid that's going through something really needs to hear your story." And that's why that whole story came to what it was. A lot of people don't know that. That's the first time I'm actually really talking about that. And that's when, after that, I wrote my book, From Prison to Promise. So a lot of components played into that, because the one line I think, people might remember the most is when Triple H said, "People like you don't deserve to be here." That's motivation for all of us to get up off our asses and prove them wrong. Whether I won or lost that night, didn't matter. I kicked his ass all over that arena, Harlem Hangover, everything. So it was real as it possibly could be for me from an emotional perspective, and a lot of stuff that went into the angle. I approved all of it.
Well, can I ask something, actually? Do you mind if I ask something?
Go for it, baby.
Wait, so do you think that you would have, if Jim Ross didn't come there and tell you that, hey, we need to tell your story, do you think you ever would have gone on to do what you've done and talk to people and talk to the youth and
if I
write the books?
If I would have, it would have been I needed someone to let me know that was, because I was hiding it.
Right.
I didn't want people to know about that part of
right.
life.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Yeah.
And the internet was a different thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't
exactly
what it is. Yeah.
So I needed that, motivation to actually do that. And JR was the, motivating factor. I give him a lot of credit, you know what I mean? Because I don't know if I would have ever did it if I would have. So.
And I think, too, though, if you look at that match and, if everybody who was involved at the time looks back, hindsight being 2020, there's no doubt Booker should have gone over.
It's no doubt. Right, you know what? I remember one guy, one of the office guys, he goes, I'm walking through the hallway, and he goes, "Book, you should have won." I said thanks, man. I appreciate it.
But at the same time, it's not like they're shooting Rocky 2 and Carl Weathers is reading the script and sees that he loses to Balboa at the end and goes to Stallone and goes, "Hey man, we need to talk about this ending." you know what I mean?
100%.
Like you know what I'm saying? Like
No.
we need to talk about this. Like this is like, I mean, I get what you're saying, Book. I mean, he's always looked at it like a job, and like
That's true. That's true too. Yeah, I mean, I've always looked at this as a job. Even what I'm doing right now, I'm doing commentary. You know, I mean, it's a job. My job is to go out there and entertain and try to get these young guys over in my own way. You know what I mean? It may not be conventional.
Hey, but it's you.
But it's real.
Me. Yeah, but it's real.
It's
me.
real.
Yeah.
And I also I want to thank you for the honesty. And now that I go to therapy, I can tell my 10-year-old self that everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because he was still heated. And also the other thing too is that today was WrestleMania 31. A few years back, and obviously one of the other things that a lot of people complain about is Sting losing
Stinger.
Yeah.
Another hindsight 2020.
Yeah. So
Sting should have gone over that.
Things should have went over.
Yeah, 100%.
Or they shouldn't have had the match. One of the two.
No, 100%. And the cool thing in you talking too is, you brought up, your losses need to be bigger than your wins, and you bring up some of the people that have come through reality of wrestling, and like look at the Usos. It's so crazy to me to know the years that they weren't on the card or they were on the pre-show, to know that they main evented a WrestleMania as a tag team match. There's like less than 5 of those that have main evented a WrestleMania. And then now to know that they're doing what they've always wanted to do as kids, probably pillow fighting, to be on that stage fighting each other. And again, it is the persistence of all the years, even when they were going up against the Wyatt family and the battles with the New Day, like, and all that, and putting in that work that may have not gotten them to the point where they wanted to be. It all paid off because it's that persistence, which is a great thing.
That thing that Booker mentioned earlier when the Usos were talking about they remember the losses bigger than wins, that was in a conversation about their loss at WrestleMania last year in the main event.
Yeah.
I think Jay said they were laying there and he was thinking about that at that very moment.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Which is really crazy, And for me, it's always been, my losses had to be better than my wins. It was always about the performance. It was always about going out and performing at the highest level. When you're losing, you're really making the other guy look a certain way, and it's your job to really go out there and make that guy really look a certain way. And if you're thinking about yourself, you can't think like that at all. You can't be selfish in professional wrestling. You can be, but you got to be selfless at the same time.
And another thing you mentioned too about being in that position at WrestleMania 19 and being an African American. Look, it was just announced with NXT Stand and Deliver in Philly. Now that Trick Williams versus Carmelo Hayes, and people did the research and they said it's been 21 years when you and The Rock went up against each other in SummerSlam to have 2 African Americans headline a pay-per-view, to see their journey and to see them persevere, and to see all this talk about Melo needs to be called up for the past 2 years, but they continue to kill it in NXT, and Trick Williams and the part that you played. Like, how is that going to be another emotional moment in Philly to get to call that?
Oh, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, right, it's going to be emotional. No, because, just like Thunderbolt Patterson, guys like Teddy Long, Butch Reed, Ron Simmons, guys that paved the way for me. And I got the chance to pave the way for these guys. It's really been awesome. Melo and Trick, both of those guys, man. Both of those, they're my guys, man. And I'm a little ticked at Melo a little bit more so these days because all the knowledge I gave him, he never got me a $50 gift card. My boy Trick, game hook, but
So you can be bought.
I can be bought.
You know what's important to Booker?
That money.
And that deposit needs to hit. If the deposit hits, everything gonna be all right.
The real though, man. It's awesome. It's awesome working with those guys, man. It's awesome seeing the growth and being able to be a part of NXT for this last year, being up close and personal with both of those guys, sitting under the learning tree, because I pretty much try to talk to both of them, on a regular, and to see both of them, like just catapult, boom, all of a sudden, Trick, Trick probably had 10 matches.
That's crazy.
Think about it. Think about it. And now, he's in a freaking highlighted match. And he's a hell of an entertainer, you know what I mean? He's one that has picked up the storytelling part, very, very well. He's made that. A lot of guys that are lacking is being able to go out there and make that connection with the fans. And I hopefully, I don't know, maybe the song might have helped too. Oh yeah, man.
The song definitely helped.
But nah, man, this is awesome. I've been having a great time.
And I'm just gonna keep you on here for a couple more minutes because I know you guys got more people to talk to. But Brad, I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Ducky Ducky Quack Quack.
Of course.
Which I'm gonna tee it up for you. I need to know the origin and thank you for it. But with all his catchphrases and stuff, on a day-to-day, off camera, off air, does he use any of these in real life?
Oh yeah, man. He absolutely does. Yeah. No, you know what is actually crazy? It's funny you asked that. Because the first time I met Booker all those years ago, 12 years ago, he was exactly who I thought he was going to be. On TV, he was that guy in person, and it's like 100% authentic. Now, he might turn it up sometimes, but he's 100% authentic all the time, and he's laughing, and we're always laughing. I mean, if you watch the Hall of Fame, we're always laughing. Like the whole show, there's been times I had to cut out minutes of laughter for air because we're just giggling about something stupid, he uses all those. He uses all those phrases, and there's actually so many things that I find myself saying that I've picked up, from the greatest quote Booker's ever given is this. He has a rule. It's the 99% rule, right? If you're 99% sure about something, you keep your mouth shut. But if you're 100% about something, you speak up 100% of the time. I've used that as a moral compass in my life a lot of the times. And I have those words echoing in my head. I'm sure a lot of our road people do. There's also some great Booker catchphrases that I just can't say on the air.
Well, on our show you can, but I understand what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? We got to keep it clean. And also that philosophy for people on Twitter. Yeah, you don't have to comment on everything, my guy. You don't need to know everything, but that's a whole
They would be
topic.
A lot better off if they just... You know what I've never done in my whole life? I've never left a negative YouTube comment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've never done that. I don't get the mentality.
What motivates you to do that? That's what I know what motivates people when they hear me. They're like, shut up. Let me say something, but I get it.
They be bored.
Yeah,
I still love them, though. I still love them.
And I'll be remiss. I just need to mention his name and give him a shout out because I'm born and raised in Cleveland. Vic Joseph, shout out to you.
Oh, yeah,
Man.
Vic's
Go
great.
Browns, SummerSlam, we coming, cannot wait.
You lost me at Go Browns, but continue.
Listen, bro. You know who only says Go Browns? People from Cleveland. This wasn't a choice. I was born with it. Yeah. It is what it is.
I'm sorry.
And shout out to No, thank you. And shout out to you guys for beating our ass in the playoffs. Y'all are real.
Yeah. That was
Thanks for the quarterback. That's a whole nother thing we don't have to talk about. That's a whole nother thing.
Y'all can have Deshaun.
Booker, the origin of Shucky Ducky Quack Quack. And if you want to say it, I wouldn't be mad at you, but I'm not, you don't have to. But the origin of it.
No, man. Everything I say, I never contributed to myself. All right, I'm normally always giving props or representing somebody else. A lot of my stuff is not original. Shaggy Ducky Quack Quack actually is a term, a phrase that came from a comedian, and the comedian's name was Shucky Ducky. From the 80s. He didn't get over like Eddie Murphy and all these other comedians did, but he was so good, man. He was, and after every joke, he would say Shucky Ducky Quack Quack. And I remember somebody asking him, what does Shucky Ducky Quack Quack means? He goes, man, it could mean anything you want it to mean. You might see a hot chick, you go, you Shucky Ducky Quack Quack. You know what I mean? Something like that. So it's like you can use it for several different things. It's just a term, just a phrase.
That's what makes it so much better.
Yeah.
When you see The Rock and what he did on Monday night, And obviously, there's been a lot of talk about the past Monday night, the best Raw ever, the past Raw in the past 15 years for certain. How did that make you feel? Because obviously, this heel run was cool, but it was like a stamp. It was like just a stamp on it last night on Monday.
The Rock has brought just entertainment back. That's all he's done. He just brought the entertainment portion back to the business, and The Rock can make you feel something, and it might not be good sometimes. Just this heel turn has been amazing. It's been real, almost to the fact of where you want to hate him. I mean, you heard Dave LaGreca damn near lost his damn mind over The Rock.
In his pink bathrobe and all.
It's because The Rock made Dave LaGreca feel something. You think that happened on purpose or by accident? Which one?
No, it was on purpose.
You're damn right. It's because The Rock he has no filter right now, and that's what wrestling used to be from a perspective. But back then, you got to understand, it's no accident that The Rock is, top notch. I don't know, is he number one in Hollywood?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
Okay, it's no accident. It's no accident because back in the day, man, in that locker room, we had some of the best actors in the world that made you guys feel a certain way. Those guys were really, really, really good. And I think that's what the business is going through right now, being able to catch up to that part. They can do the wrestling part a lot, perhaps even better, way better than we could do it. But the acting, oh my God, man, to really make you feel, the Jake the Snakes of the world. Do you know how good of an actor Jake was?
Oh, yeah, man.
To make you feel like he was a demonic individual? That took a lot of work, a lot of towns, working in front of a lot of crowds. And that's something that these kids now are witnessing right before their very eyes. The Rock go out there and make these people go, good God, I didn't know wrestling was this.
I don't like him anymore.
Exactly.
We get a lot of that.
Wrestling's cool again.
We'll close it out with this then. The comparisons that have been thrown out with the success of wrestling. And like you just said, wrestling is cool again in comparison to the Attitude Era and the heights of the 90s compared to what we have now. When you take into consideration things like Bad Bunny, the celebrity involvement, and not just that they're involved, that they're doing it at the level that they're doing it.
Yeah.
Everything, the sold out shows, the success that AEW's having, the indies are doing good, media, we doing good over here on the YouTube. Like everything it just keeps going and going. So are the comparisons fair? Or you're like, no, you don't understand. It was something out of this world.
No. I think the comparison's fair. The Attitude Era was, one of a kind. But I do think we're kind of like getting back to the Attitude Era. I look at NXT, and it's getting attitude as it possibly could be. Have you seen some of the ladies on NXT? You about to lose your damn mind. I have to crack my neck every week. You know what I mean? I'm serious. Because I'm like, hold the hell up here. You know what I mean? But nah, it's getting that feel again. Just like watching Gunther. We haven't had a guy come through the business that make you feel like he does in quite some time, and that believable to where you ain't gonna walk up on him in a bar and say, "Hey, is wrestling fake?" He might beat the hell out of you right there. So I feel like it's getting back to that era. Will we get all the way back to the Attitude Era? I don't think so. We'll never get back to something like that. I don't think anything like that can be recreated, but I do think that the era that they create, that they're going to be remembering, I think is upon us. I really do.
It's a beautiful thing. Shout out to Rollins, McIntyre, and Punk, by the way.
Oh yeah, great segment, man. That was a great segment.
Brad, close us out. Plug everything to make sure everyone's in tune and ready to go.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hall of Fame podcast, ESPN Radio 975, 925, Reality Wrestling on YouTube, 750,000 and counting. We got the Row Games going on. Filming is going to be on April 20th. That's like our American Gladiators searching for the ultimate athlete. Row Pay Up is on April 13th. Special main event.
Sold out, man.
Sold out in advance. I'm not even joking. We had to build like another section to put more chairs because we're selling out so fast. Matt Cardona and Kenny King are going to be main event in that show. There's all kinds of stuff coming. I don't even remember it all. I don't remember it all. Yeah. But so much, man. Yeah.
It's amazing. And there's rumors, NXT might be coming down here. We'll see what happens. Nothing's been official, but you guys are down here for all the fights and everything. So thank you for the time. We'll do it again if you guys will make the trip, and we appreciate the time. Seriously, thank you guys.
Thanks, brother. It was great.